Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Streams. I'm Eric Rodriguez, also known as Nerdchronic across social media. It's been a while since our last episode. We took a break just to sort of ride out the rest of the year last year and wait for the right show or film to come back to. And I knew over the past month with how rapidly this show has exploded in the reaction space and beyond that this is the one that we're going to come back with. You read the title, it's Severance. We're talking about Severance today. One of the, I think, wildest, best new shows that we've had in a long time for multiple reasons that we'll go over today. I'm joined today by our amazing roster of people here and guests, all creators that you probably know and love. I'm hoping that you meet some that you have not today and just get to know one another as they will themselves. So we'll get started with some intros, some guest intros that we have here today. My co-host today is the one and only Johnny Odell, aka J2O. Johnny, thank you for being here.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And up top, we have the one and only Eric from Blind Wave. Eric, thank you so much for being here as well.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I have watched this show once a week for the last 20 weeks, and this is my first time talking with anybody that's not the Blind Wave crew about the show.
A little
but also, that means I didn't have any break between season 1 and 2, and now I'm reeling. No, I don't have any more.
Yeah, welcome to hell, Eric.
I know. I'm here.
Hopefully,
I'm on the floor now.
Years. Yeah,
you're at the bottom
now
floor.
You got the years wait we had.
Yeah, exactly.
You've created hell and you're going to burn in it.
Wow.
Or I think when Helly said that, right?
I feel amongst peers, yes.
Next to him is from Real Time, Rob. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eric. I really appreciate it. I loved our talk just a week ago. That was a really great time, and thanks for inviting me over to do this. And I mean, I'm just really happy to be with this group of creators. So many great people in here that I recognize. This is also my first time ever doing any kind of recording without my reinforcements, my other two guys that I do the channel with. So this is a first for me. I'm really excited and a little bit nervous, if I'm being honest, but really happy to talk Severance. It's probably my favorite show right now, and there's just so much to discuss.
Yeah, don't worry, you're in good hands, trust me. And from the normies, Navi, again, by yourself, not without your cohorts today. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, just by myself, none of the 7 other people here, in the same boat as Eric the Blind Wave, binge watched the Severance. I think we both started at the same time.
I think so.
Yeah, so I feel bad for everybody who waited, but now we're in the same boat. But one of the best shows. So excited to talk about it.
And up and early from Australia, Adam from FWCI. I appreciate you the most being here today at, was it 7 in the morning your time?
It's 5 in the morning, and I'm actually still up. I haven't been to bed yet, so we're looking forward to how this one goes. And this is my first time doing one of these as well, so I'm juggling a lot right now, so excited.
And returning from our Avatar discussion is Angela from Funny Little Gal Reacts. Angela, thanks for being here. As well as Sean from our Avatar chat as well. Sean, thank you for being here.
Oh my God, here we go.
Salutations, everyone. It's me, Sean T. I just want to say that I look much forward to our multimedia discussion event. Hopefully I will perform very well and not receive reprimand. Thank you.
No tank tops at Lumen.
Right into the break room.
I wouldn't last a single fucking day. Anyway, hold on. I'll get back into the other thing. Hold on. I'm unsevered. Play the elevator music.
There you go.
There we go.
Ding,
all right, cool. No,
ding.
And then we're good. All right, cool. Now I'm out. Now I'm outie, Sean.
And last but certainly not least, we have 2 new faces to the reaction space in general. A very new channel, but they're growing rapidly. Happy to have them here, Bradley and Adam. Bradham Reacts. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, we need to get better at specifying because people have been referring to us as Bradham because that's our channel name, but I'm Bradley and I'm Adam. And you are allowed to use the wrong name and just refer to us as Bradham. All of our friends call us Bradham. We're basically attached to it. So. But we're so happy to be here, and it's cool to join. I know all of these people who have been in the reaction space longer than we have in we've probably seen all of you react to something at some point. So,
Absolutely.
we're happy to be here.
Well, welcome.
Thank you for the warm welcome, you guys.
Yeah, for our purposes today, we'll probably refer to you as Bradham, just to hone in on your thoughts together. And yeah, so like I said, we have a lot to get into today, so I want to dive into it. But first, we do have something special for everyone. Let's see.
Choreography.
Yeah, choreography merriment.
Whoa.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Ben?
No way.
What?
What is this?
See
Please
this.
tell me if you can't hear this. We'll start over. But yeah.
Everybody watching Crossing the Streams, I just wanted to say thanks for watching the show. Thanks for being so invested in it. And I wanted to mention a few people by name here: Eric Rodriguez, Roshi, Navi, Sean, Angela, Johnny Odell.
Oh my God.
Rob, Adam Bradley, and Eric. All of you. We've had so much fun making Severance, and to have this level of discourse with people who are watching it and what you guys do on your podcast, connecting with it, it's really special for us. So thank you, and hope to see you soon on the pod one of these days. All right. Bye.
Oh my.
Oh.
Eric!
That's amazing.
Oh,
Incredible.
I'm sorry. I totally was not quiet. I literally.
That's
Professional reactors can't stay quiet.
right. No. And it's so fun. It is so funny every once in a while. Like if
You're
you
right.
like, if and when you get a shout out or anything like that, and it happens ever so
Oh,
really.
yeah.
But but if and when it happens, you're like, I'm supposed to know about you. You're not supposed to know about me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a one-way street. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yes, we are. That's insane.
that's so
We're in a new timeline, folks. That's crazy.
Yeah, thank you for Ben for sending that in. I won't go into how I got that exactly. It's a long story, but long story short, he
Lots
was
of
nice enough-
intimidation.
Yeah, he was nice enough to send that in. I'm very grateful for him to be able to send that. He's very kind about it, and he was very receptive to the idea of just helping us out today.
Oh my
So thank
God.
you, and I'm glad to have everyone here.
Wow.
Appreciate it. For anyone watching, you might have noticed he mentioned Roshi, your boy Roshi, who was supposed to be here, but he's just getting off a 24-hour stream, so he's feeling a bit under the weather now.
A little
So
bit, I can
understandably, he's taking a rest today, so we'll let him have that. But other than that, we can jump right into the discussion here.
Wow.
Again, starting with season 1, the show became a pretty sort of niche hit a few years ago when it first came out. It was on the early age of Apple TV, when everyone was still even trying to figure out what that meant. And so I only knew a handful of people who were watching it, especially compared to now. So I kind of want to hear everyone's own personal journey into finding the show, what your initial thoughts were, what hooked you on it, and just sort of how you got sort of into the fandom of it. I guess Eric, you're up top. We'll start with you. What was your sort of initial exposure to the show, and how did you sort of receive it when you start to learn more about it?
Well, my initial exposure was it won a poll that we ran over at blindwave.com. Just a certain type of show that we get is generally the high discussion ones, and this one was introduced to me as you might talk a little bit about it. And when we do that, it's like, okay, well, we never limit our talking at the end of a reaction, so I'll schedule an hour, and it turned out to be like, oh, I can't fit it in an hour. It's just such a amazing show to talk about. I almost enjoy talking about it more than I enjoy watching it, which there are very few shows that I do that with, and I'm so glad that I have a current one that's running right now with Severance. So I can't wait to talk more.
And Rob, I spoke with you and Bryce and Zeph on our discussion on Reactorverse about the shows that you watch. So much of it is skewed towards the sort of younger teen, young adult female demographic, and
Sure.
this was a
Shout
sort
out
of
to
break from
Vampire
that.
Diaries.
Yeah. So I'm excited to hear. What were your sort of initial thoughts on the show once you guys started it?
Well, I had heard of it before. I think we watched it a year and a half, 2 years after it originally aired, and I had heard relatives, friends just talk about this show, and it's one of those shows that is, when people describe it, it's my favorite thing. It's I can't tell you what it's about, because then that would kind of ruin it, and that's definitely Severance. I feel like the less you know about know about it going into it, the better. And I went into it totally blind, just Adam Scott. I love Adam Scott. Can't wait to see him in this. And I'd only ever seen him in a comedic role before. And Mark Scout is definitely funny, but I mean, a lot of Severance is very, very intense and emotional and serious. And seeing him in that way was just so jarring at first. But I mean, I'm absolutely in love with this show, and I can't wait to talk more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Adam Scott definitely has the chops for sure. I've seen him in a few things. Navi, I actually remember texting Serge when the show first came out. I texted him, I was like, dude, you got to watch the show. Like, I know you're going to love it. Whether you react to it or not, you definitely have to like just give it a shot because he's just such a big Lost head. He's going to love the mystery box element of it. So when you started with it, I know he had already seen it and he got you guys introduced to it. I guess what was that experience like, with him, rushing you guys in, but also yourself just getting to know the show?
It was great. It actually was Suraj and Chris both. They watched it and they will like just talk about it on the side. So, they will be like, oh, did you see the new episode? And we'll just like, what is it about? So they're like, you have to watch it. We were going to put it on a poll, but the season 2 was coming out and Suraj and Chris was like, we gotta watch this. I don't care if we stop something, we have to. And Chris was on paternity leaves for the first season, so he didn't sit with us, but Suraj did. And his definition was this helps with that lost itch. Yeah. And you know how Suraj he's a lostie. So as soon as he said it, he was just so happy that we were watching it, just silently sitting on the couch. And he has the habit of just quietly just watching you. And it's like, don't do this. This is creepy. Look at the TV. But it was one of the great show. And I think he and Chris was so excited when season 2 came because that was new for them also. So they could continue theorizing with everybody else. And he was able to see that we had different theories about season 1 that he never thought of. So it was interesting to just have that discussion. It's like, oh, I never saw it this way. We loved it. It brings a great discussion. Any show that has a good discussion that lasts about 20-30 minutes, that's a great show. So right. we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And Adam, again, in Australia, you're one of the first examples we have here of someone reacting to it solo. So you're sort of stuck in your own head with your thoughts, digesting everything episode to episode. I guess, what was that like for you getting into it?
Yeah, stuck in my own head is pretty accurate, actually. The way I found out about it was a guy at work told me to check it out. I think the entire series was already out at that point. And there's a scene in the very first episode where Mark is getting the chip installed in his brain. Fun fact, while I was watching that, it completely turned my stomach. All the blood drained from my face. I had to lay down. I was about to start eating dinner. I couldn't. We nearly didn't continue on with the show. My partner and I, we ended up watching it in my civilian life, season 1. Nearly didn't continue with the show because it just completely turned my stomach. And I'm glad I did because it ended up being well worth it.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think that my partner had the same reaction. She almost didn't make it through the initial scene. Angela, similarly, yes, you got through the show on your own, 1 and 2. Now, just being a part of the repertoire of shows that you have. I guess what was it like getting into the show for yourself?
So I didn't know anything about it. I didn't watch any trailers. I didn't know who was in it. And my editor was like, you have to watch Severance. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And from the very first shot, I was hooked. That shot of Helly and just the set design and the symmetry and everything about the severed floor, I was like just eating it up. It made my brain tingle. And I loved the show and was just blown away by it. And nobody had watched it. And it was killing me because I'm like trying to ask people, have you watched Severance? Have you watched Severance? And finally, I got my husband to watch it a year ago. And then he was just like me, just all these theories. So we just had years of anticipating season 2. So it's been it's been a long wait, but it has been just so rewarding at the same time.
Yeah. I was there with that as well. The year's wait for season 2. So I'm glad we made it here today. Sean, likewise, again, having the group with you, everyone getting into the show. I guess how was that first season for you?
Well, so yeah, it was sort of one of those. I call them like Apple Plus, like secret shows, like where they're spending like a shit $1 billion, and they're there's all these like top talent in it, and like no one has seen it except for like Ted Lasso had become a hit, like Shrinking, I think, or is that what that is? Shrink or.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like that had kind of become a hit, and they'd gotten some stuff kind of going, and I always my partner Amelia is very much like the kind of like a little bit of the sleuth, is in on all the TV, and I would like kind of like walk into the room and see the show, and you can kind of tell if like a show is like good, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, ooh, this is a handsome program. This looks like it's Christopher Walken. Like you're like like all these other it was interesting. And then I think it was like 2000 and I think it was 2021 or something like that. We might have still just kind of been coming out of lockdown, and then it sort of went away, and then it was coming back, and everybody had seen it. The Draces had seen it, and so we did it as a Patreon exclusive where I watched the show. I mainlined it in 30 hours and just cooking my noodle up like in that space or whatever. And so to prep for season 2, and then we were able to kind of watch season 2 like as it released. And it's an old school, the old heads will know, like it's like an old school zeitgeist, like meta like kind of like meta culture type show, like where every week like comes out, you got videos, you got this incredible, just a wellspring of content, especially in the YouTube space. You know what I mean? Like of people just like making stuff, obsessing over details, all that kind of stuff and everything. And it's the fires to which we were forged. Like we kind of came up like watching Lost, watching Game of Thrones, like speculating on how something's going to end and everything and all that type of stuff. And so it's given that itch, and it's just good old school like prestige TV filmmaking, and also to the point of Adam Scott being like kind of jarring. I was like, I knew Ben Stiller was a good director, but this just really showcases the breadth. We're just like, I was not aware of your game, Ben, by the way, who said our names earlier, like 10 minutes ago, which is fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, so that was how I came to it. And then that's and yeah, I mean, it's the best show on TV. It's among the best and most interesting shows on TV right now. Absolutely. So yeah.
It's fantastic, and I'm excited to have everyone joining for it, especially for Bradham Reacts. It's like I said up top, your channel is relatively new, but you guys have made some great strides so far. And Severance being one of your sort of flagship shows that you started with, I can't imagine that just has sort of like such a big impact on just your connection with it and your interactivity with it. Yeah, I guess what was that like? Just sort of being able to get into the first season at least, and then carry that into the second season for your channel.
Yeah. It was interesting. We had only started back in like October, November, really. Mm-hmm. And the idea was to start, it was so new to us that we wanted to start with the show that we knew we both loved and enjoyed. So we started with Heartstopper, which is very different from Severance, as I'm sure most of us know. Mm-hmm. And then we garnered a small audience, like this niche audience that wanted us to watch this next show, Young Royals, which we also thoroughly loved.
Yeah, a lot of queer media at first.
Yes.
But we also, and we love our queer media, but we also, there's so many shows that we like. And this genre specifically of like psychological thriller, or like so often I want to watch a movie and I'm like, that's like mind bending. We just both eat up that kind of show. And we like a show that's smart. And, like Angela was saying, like just all of these details from the moment we started season 1, like the symmetry like captivated us.
And that mod 60s design of the set down under Lumen. And like, also what always hooks me is, I always think of It Follows, that idea of you don't know when or where you are, but it's a familiar world, and the way they do certain things, they don't want you to know those things, but it's familiar, but it's scary because you don't know. And we had so many people. We had had no one tell us about Severance. It was really something we had seen just the second trailer for. And then I realized maybe I had previously heard.
We had some friends in real life, friends of ours, be like, oh, you started a reaction channel, you have to see Severance. And we're like, well, we haven't done a show like this yet. But we're so glad we did. And it's definitely opened us up to like doing shows in other genres besides just queer media. We just started The Last of Us, since that second season is coming out in a few weeks. It's
good timing.
Oh my gosh! Nobody spoil anything. I know we're so late.
Just good TV.
Congratulations and my condolences.
Thank you. We're gonna need it.
But yeah, thanks for we're happy to be here, even though we're a newer channel. And Severance is definitely one of those shows that we love and we'd be watching on or off screen. So
yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, Johnny, you're going to take us to our next section, but I want to hear your thoughts getting into it. You've been a very big vocal supporter of the show. I've seen on Twitter and stuff like that, and you were able to hammer out one or two compilations for the show recently. Just getting into the show itself for yourself, what was that like?
I watched it when it originally came out. I remember when the finale came out, only like 2 people were tweeting about it. Like no one watched it. It was nominated for a bunch of stuff at the Emmys that year, but didn't win anything. I think it lost to Succession. By the way, this is going to be a great Emmy year for Severance. There's no Succession. There's no Shogun. There's no any of that. There's no, House of the Dragon's not going to get nominated. Like this is a layup for them. But yeah, I watched it with my roommates during the pandemic, and it was a very sort of dystopian sort of world that we really got into. We were watching that, and Elmo started his own late night show, and we were watching that to sort of escape from the really horrificness of the world. So we were kind of double fisting that and Severance. It was a lot going on in our brains. But anyway, so I've been a fan, waiting patiently, and yeah. Season 2, which we're just about to get into, was worth the wait. So excited to talk about it.
Absolutely. And yeah, season 2, like you said, we had to wait 3 years to get here. That finale, for anyone who saw it, and had to watch it again, the second episode next week, it was brutal. It's a brutal one to end the season on, especially since it was bold just because getting into that first season, I remember trying to text a friend of mine, trying to convince him hey, if the show's really worth a shot, give it a chance. I don't know how the season's going to end, but I feel like they're making good strides, might, have a good conclusion. And then when it ended like that, I was like, you might want to wait. Just maybe wait a year. It'll be back next year. You're wait for that. I didn't know it was going to be 3 years. And so luckily he's yelling, he's watched it now and he's loving it. But yeah, it was a tough one to sort of swallow because they didn't give us a whole lot of answers, but I think that sort of teed us up for how great this season was and how much ground they covered. It, for me, definitely felt like this was a season where dealing with the mystery box element of the show, it wasn't a chore. It wasn't sort of strung out. They, I think, made really great strides. It took swings with the story, really episode to episode. And I think the finale was really great. And I was talking to my partner as we were watching it. Halfway through, I was like, this feels almost like it's a series finale. They could, if they wanted to, with a few tweaks, they could wrap up the show here. Honestly, there's hanging elements to explore, but as far as the sort of large thrust of the story with Mark and Gemma and everything like that, they really sort of wrapped up a number of things, no pun intended, with the numbers. But yeah, it's getting into the season. I want to hear everyone's thoughts, and I'll let Johnny sort of guide us through that with some questions here.
Great. And just want everyone to keep in mind to please enjoy all these questions equally. Okay, there's a lot to talk about with season 2. There's so many fan theories, some that came true, some that didn't. There's all these character developments. Eric from Blind Wave, I'm going to ask you probably the most important question. As a fellow person with a beardman, if you will, how would you rate Mr. Drummond's beard game?
It's quite the beard, I gotta say. I immediately, when I saw Drummond, the reason I love this show so much is because as someone that went through religious indoctrination and deprogrammed from it, I appreciate it in a lot of different ways. And Mr. Drummond is cult strong. I don't know if anybody understands that term, but he's big, he's imposing, he has that voice, and he gives authority, even though he just exudes authority, even though you don't even know if he knows exactly what he's talking about. And he is one of those characters okay, I'm not in his mind. I don't understand what he's going through, but he does have that intimidation. But when Gwendolyn Christie, Brand of Tarth, comes up against him, I'm just so pumped. I'm so excited. This show also has brought out a certain violence in me. There's a certain amount of like aggression that comes out because I care for these characters so much. You know, shows like Lost that we keep talking about, we come back to them because even when the mystery is gone, the characters are still going through something. In Severance, you get to take different parts of a character and see how each one, tries to deal with their trauma. Even the innies still have trauma, despite Lumen trying to stamp it out of them or make them not. What's the right word? Experience it, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, a character like Drummond, that's all authority. I just kept waiting for that moment, just like when season 1, okay, biting's on the table, we're biting now. If you bring in the strong, the goat herder, then she's gonna fight back when her goats are threatened. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in there, but I did really appreciate Drummond's beard, and I will miss it and his voice.
I know. It's
Great
sad.
voice.
I saw this theory where when in season 1 finale where Mark turns at the party, Cobell noticed that his handshake got a little firmer when he made the switch. So then to pay that back, where he like shoots the gun in the elevator when he switched, you're like,
Firmer grip.
Okay, I know.
I
know.
I love that.
Crazy detail. That's so cool.
Biting's on the table. The Anton Chigurh gun thing from No Country for Old Men is on the table. Like,
Old
oh my
gun,
god, yeah.
Speaking of around that scene, Rob, in your season finale reaction, you were talking about a lot of things, but one of them was about how Dr. Maurer, I think it was, at the end, screamed, "They'll all die." What do you think he exactly was talking about?
At first, that was like the thing that stuck with me for the longest. I've seen so many theories and comments on Twitter of people and their ideas, but the main one, I think, and the most logical one, is he's definitely just referring to like the 25 innies that she's taking with her when she's leaving the testing floor. And I mean, that's a terrifying thought, and it just proves that like Lumen kind of views them as people too, like people, because people die, and these innies they think will die, and that's kind of what happens when like Dylan leaves or when Irving leaves. Like these innie versions of them die. So I think that is definitely what he meant by that. The testing floor itself is just, I feel like there's so much more to learn about that. Like all of those rooms, are you telling me there was only 25 rooms down there? Absolutely not. So I can't wait to see more of that. Will Mark be down there now that he's in Lumen? I don't know. I've seen people theorize that as well. I feel like it's almost like 100% that he was referring to all of Gemma's innies when he said they will all die. But I honestly, now that Gemma's out, I would love to see like in season 3, like will we ever see Miss Casey again? Like I personally love Miss Casey. I think that she's a great character.
And 3 minutes of consciousness.
Literally, she's been alive for 2 weeks, and it's just like I really want a happy ending for her, however that would happen. But I don't know. I'll take what I can get. I'm so happy that Gemma is out and free, and just excited to see where season 3 goes, because I have no clue, honestly.
Right. This season and season finale answered a lot of questions, but raised a lot of others. Like some people, they go to work and they're just in the marching band department. Did they play instruments in real life too? Is that something they learned on the floor? Are they just playing the trumpet and drums all day, or are there other things? I have so many questions. But speaking of the marching band, Navi, you were saying in your reaction that how much you love Milkshake. I mean, we can all agree. Milkshake, aka Milkshake, he's probably one of my favorite characters.
Absolutely.
So do you think that he can be redeemed? Because he definitely had some resistance moments in the last few episodes. Where do you think his story is going?
I think he can definitely be redeemed. I think we can assume that he came from Wintertide program. So if he came from that, obviously he's been kind of integrated into this cult for a while, that now he's kind of realizing there's a cracks to it, just getting those pictures that look like him. and then talking to Natalie, and Natalie, you can see Natalie's cracking a little bit too. I think he can definitely redeem, and he definitely took the step at the end when he started using the big words against Drummond. What was that quote?
Devour feculence.
Devour feculence.
Yeah,
that'll be on shirts.
Yeah,
I have it on coffee mug.
Yeah, but nobody has stood up to Drummond like that until then. Even Drummond was kind of taken back by it. He wasn't like, he didn't punch him like he did Mark. So he was like, okay, I'm gonna just wait it and see. So I think Milchick can redeem himself, because he's at the end of the day also doing his job, and I don't think he's not severed, and people who are not severed or outies completely believe innies are different people, don't really have rights essentially. So he's in the same mindset, like these are people who are here to do a job, and they should do a job. They shouldn't do anything else. But it's going to be interesting to see how it happens in season 3 with Helly being around. There's a lot of theories I heard about Helly using her leverage, because apparently her father sees Kier in her. So like, would Helly stay around longer than Helena? If that's the case, then can she plead the case for Mark? If that's the case, then is Milchick even needed anymore? What's going to happen to him? Is he going to get transferred to somewhere else or promoted to somewhere else? Because technically he finished the last file. So it's going to be interesting to see what his roles involve from here. Now that the Sever floor is no longer there, what his role exists. And he's not the one who came up with the idea of Chip like Cobell did. And he's essentially just there as a part of the program. Wang got transferred, so he will probably get transferred. But I think he can turn into a good person. We'll see how that goes. But I think he can be redeemed. Every character has some redeeming quality to a certain extent.
And he's one of the few people that like sees both the innies and the outies, and he's acutely aware of the personhood and everything, which I always thought was, thought was the most interesting part of one.
Especially starting a conjugal visit with Dylan. It's like, so you understand what you're doing. Like,
he's a really good manager. In any other sense, he would like be a fantastic manager.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, he did some mistakes. Like, he should have never gone to outie Dylan to try to get that card. Like, there were some things that he did probably when like created this ripple effect. Right. But he thought he knew what he was doing. And
to me, Milchick really represents the kind of worker that does go above and beyond to help the company without the gratitude that you would expect to come with that. And he tries to meet the innies, and now he's halfway on the funeral of Irv and stuff like that. It's interesting when I saw the screening at Paley Fest, not to keep bragging about it, but
please.
Eric.
You should.
You want all the details.
We get it.
They asked Jamel Tillman when was the most real that we've seen Milchick so far in all this different scenarios he's been put in, and his answer was, we haven't seen it yet. We have not seen his most real self yet.
I love that.
So I'm looking forward to that.
There was the one. I'm sorry. It's so fascinating. I just like the one part where Mark was saying like the work is just work thing, and that like shook him to his core when he kind of cracked and he got like a little emotional and stuff. That was one of Tramel Tillman has maybe been the biggest like him and probably Britt Lauer and Zach Cherry. They're like the three like just biggest discoveries of this show. Like he's such a joy. But that was so you can't. That's where, and I think that's where the redemption thing kind of comes in, because again, you're just gonna realize that those motherfuckers at the top don't like you like that. They don't give a shit about you like that. You know what I mean? So sorry.
No, for sure.
No, you're fine. Please, anyone, we're asking questions like linearly, but feel free to jump in if you have something to say. Like, it doesn't have to be so reform as moving, do whatever you want.
I think if you're asking if he can be redeemed, characters, we don't get to choose our beliefs. We're convinced of something or we're not. And Milchick has cracks in his armor now, right? Like, he feels like he's a true believer, and everything that he's coming at is an objective fact. But then Lumen will give him, well, here's your version of Kier. You can look at it subjectively, and he's going, subjectively? That doesn't make any sense. And I feel like that might be one of the very small moments we got to see his true face too.
Yeah, because he's completely bought in. But you know, but they're like, here's Kier, but black. What do you think about that? He's like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? What are you talking about?
He has to be thinking like, why do you think I need my own? I'm that's mine too. You know, I'm here with you. So when they do that, they're trying to make it feel more inclusive to him, but they're separating him when they do that. And I think he recognizes it. And I think that the way that he like expresses himself with dance and with his eloquence, it's him trying to self-express. And Lumen is coming down on his self-expression. I think that's what's going to do it. That's what's going to get the redemption going for him.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure. Creative person.
And
be creative.
I'm not even sure how much he knows. He's like the sort of go-to like HR guy where everyone is just like, "This is bullshit. I need to get out of here." And he's like, "I don't know what to tell you, man. This is my job." Like, everyone just kind of airs out their grievances to him when he's not the one like pulling the strings. He's just kind of the yes man. So that'll be interesting to see. I hope we get like a backstory episode with him in season 3.
For sure.
Definitely. I've never seen Mr. Tillman in any role before, so this is my first experience with him, and his subtlety. He's so subtle in his like, I want you to notice this, but I'm only going to have it on my face for a second. You know? He's so good at it. I love it.
He's incredible.
Even him talking to how he talks to Helly versus how he talks to Helena is so insane. Like, it's it's so fascinating. All right, so Adam, we learned a lot about goats this season. A little bit. I still have a lot of questions. Fan like, you know, eagle-eyed fans have noticed that even at I'm blanking on her name, Mark's sister's house, there are like goat statues kind of sometimes like in the background. So what do you think the whole significance of the goats are?
So I was latched on hard to a theory that the goats were working towards some sort of biogenetic creation of humans, and I'm not fully detached from that theory yet.
Okay.
But after the after the final episode from series 2, I think it's just a divine creature and something that they are literally putting all this money, manpower, time, and effort into breeding these animals purely for the sacrifice, which at first I was a little bit underwhelmed by that, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no, this really paints how unhinged this entire organization is if they're going to not just have this, you know, sci-fi technology side to it, but this cult religion kind of brainwashy side of it as well. So I think the goat mystery might have been solved. I don't know if we're going to get more of it, but I would love the goats to be more significant because I've spent many hours thinking about these goats.
I'm just glad Emil is safe.
Yes.
Free Emil.
I couldn't not think about you know, a lamb sacrifice that you place your sins upon, and you know, and sacrifice in order to bless yourself. But I don't know what Lumen's goal is. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. If you get that, then you can work yourself backwards. But I don't know. For me, it's so much fun to question. I almost don't want the answer anymore.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it like crazy billionaire company or crazy religious cult?
Exactly.
Is it both?
Every theory is ridiculous. I don't think we'd be satisfied with anything anyway. So sacrifice is fine, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it's kind of I don't know if it's like a commentary on Scientology or organized religion, and then also Amazon. I mean, Apple makes it. Apple could be in the crosshairs too here, you know?
Yeah, but now we know they're losing $1 billion a year on their TV.
So, as they should. They're $1 trillion company. Yeah. They should take creativity at a loss.
Yeah, they're making that money back.
My sort of the ultimate theory about like what Lumen is supposed to represent, I think, and I'm not supposed to be like, I'm not trying to like bash anything here specifically. I think it might be Disney. I think it might be a jab at Disney, because like how, you know, Disney does have like sort of like cult like following from like, you know, with big supporters, and like they have such a huge reach, and the animatronic element of having Kier there and everything, and the idea that Walt Disney's head is frozen underground somewhere, like all this sort of weird like cult and rumor stuff that surrounds the company for a long time. I feel like it is like direct jab, not necessarily maybe directly at that, but an amalgam of things like that. Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
So possibly Walt Disney could be a goat.
Yeah.
His head is frozen
Walt
somewhere.
Disney's head on top of a goat. Let's fucking do this. Like
I'm watching that show.
He's like my last words cannot possibly have been Kurt Russell. They need to.
That's awesome. Angela, you are someone who's probably watched Severance even more than most of us because you have to. Well, I mean, I guess you guys probably all rewatch it, but I know you watch it and then you rewatch it with your husband and then you rewatch it a few more times. So you probably caught a lot more than we have, and you've really been able to probably tone in on some of the relationships. I'm curious, who do you ship more? Any Mark and any Helly, or Audi Mark and Audi Gemma?
So the finale was hard for me because watching it years ago, like really like just being shocked about Gemma and like that they're innies and they spend all this time together. Like I'm like, I can't wait for this reunion. And then years had to go by before we got the show again. And in that time of rewatching it, you really do fall in love with Helly R. Like she's just fantastic. And by the time I got to the finale, and I think it's like 27 seconds of Mark and Gemma having a reunion, and I'm devastated when he doesn't walk out the door, but I love Mark S. and Helly R together.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's nothing that's satisfying about any of it. But and it's hard because I don't like Helena at all. Like I don't really have a lot of sympathy or empathy for her and what she has done to Mark. So I'm just like, gosh, I really want Mark and Gemma together, but I don't think Mark Scout deserves that. I think, Mark S deserves to be happy, and that's with Helly R. And so it's a very, like, I don't think they can do a throuple. I don't think that you can just have like, like, oh, I'm going to sever so I can go spend time with my other wife in my, other nature. It's hard. It's really hard because you have like a new budding relationship and it's beautiful and it's young and it's this innie relationship that hasn't existed for a while. And then you have this mature relationship that has gone through trials and tribulations, like, having a miscarriage. And so it's like that one is like really important because it's like a real life relationship, but then you have this new one and everyone knows how great new love feels and like you want the world for them, but like they can't have that
right
the way the show ended.
Right.
It's really interesting. They set up this, lots of this season has been playing with the nuances of people not thinking that innies are their own person, right? Even for the audience, it's really hard to separate the two. And at the beginning of the finale, you finally get like the two Marks talking to each other, which really sets it in stone that like these are two different people having a conversation.
Yeah.
And like that's really special. And Sean, you talked about Britt Lauer earlier. Helly is so endearing. What Britt Lauer does to make you hate Helena, but to fall in love with Helly is so special that you can't help but want, for whatever to happen, for it to just work out for Mark S. and Helly. But you've spent this whole season trying to get Gemma out. So this dichotomy of like, what do I want for these people? They have such a good show on their hands. They've set it up perfectly.
And it's got to be an actor's dream as far as just being able to, again, like subtly play different people. Like some people are very different people and some people are like, they are a couple degrees away from one another. And like, even though I remember like when it's funny, like, because you sort of clock it like episode 1 of season 2, where you're just like, that's Helena.
You can
like that's
feel
not
it.
and then as soon as they go to the tallest waterfall on the planet, or whatever, and she finally comes back and she's walking through the severed floor for the first time, because Helly has this really kind of cool, like sort of like butch, like macho, like arms first, sort of like
the Helly walk.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Helly stomp.
Exactly. Yeah, and like, and it's like, and it's one of those things like we haven't seen it for so long. It's like when like white noise like finally like turns off or whatever. You're like, wait a minute, like, oh, yo, no, yes, that's the walk. I've seen that walk before. You know what I mean? Shit like that. And yeah, I mean, like that's another. Yeah, I mean, like it's the subtlety to which it's done is like masterclass, like
Mhm.
masterclass.
Well, and one more thing before we move on real quick to Sean's point about the walk. I don't know if this is something I have just made up, but I like the idea of Helly not knowing what's feminine or masculine.
Mhm.
And so her walk is just a
It's just
walk.
hers.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just hers because, you know,
Helena's
I-
poised.
She
Yes,
wasn't. She wasn't like.
exactly.
She wasn't
For her to not
socialized
have
for.
that, yeah.
She wasn't
Yeah.
socialized for 30 years. It's like this is how a femme person walks, you know, or
Yeah,
whatever
she's
it
not
was. Like,
performing
yeah,
a
yeah,
gender.
totally, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Again,
absolutely.
Emmys are going to reign in on this
Yep.
cast.
Oh,
And the
true.
supporting
That's true.
actor and actress class is going to be a bloodbath. I don't know who wins that. But yeah, that reminds me when Helena meets Mark in the diner, like you just don't like them together at all. They have no chemistry. It's like, it's just wild how they play those.
Awkward
Yeah.
flirting. It's just awful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awkward.
I mean, the performances are just incredible. I mean, I think watching everyone's reaction, early on, like Sean said, like by episode 2 of season 2, I think everyone sort of was like on the Helena train of like that's Helena. But I think everyone sort of like had like the boom, that's it moment is when she's talking to Irv in the tent and her face drops. Like I think everyone catches that subtle change like so well, and that's Britt Lauer's performance, like just like selling it like just in one like half second of a facial change.
Yeah.
And it's so impressive.
Absolutely.
Lowe's Hollow is personally my favorite episode
So
of the
good.
whole show, and a big part of that is Britt Lauer's performance in it. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. So good.
So, did nobody else find there was any chemistry with Helena and Mark Scout? Because I really felt it.
I felt like
Did they?
it was a different
It was
chemistry.
I guess
Yeah,
so.
it was
very
a
different.
It was a little
hostile
hostile.
chemistry, but it was
Something-
still there. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that I believed that Helena was really striving for something there. I believe her performance as that character trying to really find something there, and Mark, feeling something that he believed to Telly, and like I think he is like sort of duped by that genuinely. So I do think that there's something there that Helena as the character is trying to look for in herself. I think she finds a certain freedom pretending to be Helly that she couldn't otherwise, and so I think we're supposed to sort of find that not endearing, but like at least like sort of interesting that she's
I have to imagine that she's at least curious why her innie is attracted to Mark.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, because Lumen
spends
spends so much effort to tell you you are not this person. I'm going to do all of these tests to prove you are severed, but they only do that because the question is up in the air. So
Yeah.
she has to be thinking like, I watch all of Helly's stuff. Like, what does she see in this guy? And she might see a little bit of that of that being like herself expressing a little bit.
And there's
agree,
also
Eric.
oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, go for it.
And there's also like an element of like, I think they call it like slum tourism or poor tourism, where like
Yes.
people like to
Oh, yeah.
cosplay as like regular people and shit, and like, and that was like a total element of it. And I do think that there is, again, to speaking to the strength of the performance, there is this shade because she's watching like on repeat, like that kiss. She's getting drawn into this. She's getting drawn into season 1, 2, like playing it. Yeah, like she's replaying it because also like I swim in what looks like a frigidly cold fucking pool, and then I eat a weird egg breakfast in front of my dusty puppet dad, and then like and
Puppet
like
dad is
what the
crazy.
fuck is this life? And then and she's and she looks at Helly, and this person is fighting for something. This person is alive in
And
like
she's more free.
She's free.
She's more free, which is so ironic.
The fire of Kier, you know what I mean? Like, and so, and it's like, it's what they're trying to repress, but it's also but these are guys that like created like this entire story about jacking off in front of your brother and like how you avoid the shame of that, so like, I don't think that these motherfuckers know how to process stuff very well. Like again, it's like, I will build a like weird Cuba corporate cult like nation state rather than go to therapy is like kind of the Lumen thing, like, kind of like
I think if we're on hashtag resistance watch, I think Milchek and Helena are both like prime candidates for season 3. Like both of them have plenty of reason to be like, F this, like I'm out of here. Like this sucks. They have to be robots all the time. And that eats at you. Sean, we've talked about Helly, Mark, Milchek, a lot of the other characters. But in your 209 react, you were saying that Dylan is the emotional linchpin of the season. And I loved a lot of Dylan's scenes all season. He really went through a lot of character growth. So maybe if you would like to just kind of expand on that a little bit.
Well, sure. I think that Dylan is kind of, he's that awesome sort of slightly unhinged character that is kind of, that pretty much says in a even within this context, even within the context of Severance and how buttoned up and how kind of prim and proper and all that kind of stuff that everybody is within this space, he is cutting to the quick, has no time for bullshit. He is decisive. He is authentically himself in this space. And he is just like this kind of raw nerve where you're just like, what is like he put the dick in predictive like analytics or something like, you know, like where he's and also like, I mean, yeah, he's the guy at the office that curses the most. So like I completely yeah, right. I completely empathize 100%. But I think that like as far as like and there were huge like emotional like kind of juggernauts in this episode, both small and big. I mean, like, Milchek looking at the iceberg, cracking a tiny bit because he's still letting us see just a little bit of that stuff. And then like, obviously like the Gemma, eternal lumen of the severed mind, episode that we got. Michelle Gondry stepped in for a couple of days to direct that shit, even though that's not happened. The DP did, and they did an incredible job. But like, as far as like when he made that speech before they wheeled in the watermelon head, you really got there with him. And especially when somebody who's also like so kind of like acerbic and acidic and kind of just sharp and funny, but then they also pull at the heartstrings at Irving's funeral. And then like the proposal, I wish I was bi because I'd marry the fucking guy, because this is like the most romantic shit that ever happened. You know what I mean? Like it was so earnest. And I think it's also one of those things like you create, it's like the tough, stern dad. And if they crack a little bit, that sends you over the, like, just like absolutely over the hill. Whereas like somebody who has like a very, very, like a very defined facade, and then they break with that, and it's something that's totally earnest and so just like, again, like I don't know, like again, how old is this guy? He's like a year old or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's like a teenager or something. Like and he goes like asking you to marry me after meeting you for like 4 fucking times. It makes more sense than any other decision that I could possibly make or whatever, you know what I mean? Because people have been married for a lot less, you know what I mean? Like, and so, I thought that he was like this, he was like the 6th player on the bench who's going to give you like 14 fucking points, you know what I mean? Yep. Like when you need it the most and really make the difference. And I thought that, in that sense, as far as just like these big kind of wellspring moments, I thought that he did great. I think, and also, with a balloon that is constantly kind of being expanded with tension, him being able to come in and like let that out in whatever way, whether it was with a laugh or something that was like emotionally affecting, I thought was again like fantastic. I mean, because before he was just like, oh, that's the guy from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. It's like, hey, Spider-Man, do a flip, or I was like, I never seen him in anything else before that, and he totally crushed and kind of became like the part of him and Helly are kind of in a way like the raw like emotional nerve, like, but his came in at a much more kind of sweet affectation. I think this season.
I do love that it's him and Helly together at the end in the finale. That they're the ones standing up the Milchek.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. So sick.
Yes. I feel like he had nothing to lose. I mean, he can't resign. The love of his life kind of rejects him in a way, and it's like, I'm not going to come here. So, I mean, he basically was ready to sort of off himself by resigning, that would, if his Audi had approved, he wouldn't exist anymore. So this is a guy who has nothing left. And so, F Lumen, like, let's do this.
You brought up the proposal scene, Sean, and I thought that was that scene was so great. But people in our comments actually pointed this detail out to me that I didn't notice at first, and that the ring that he gives her is is made of the finger traps.
Yeah.
I was wondering what that was. Yeah.
And
that
just,
gave me chills right now. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like that shows perfectly his growth from season 1 through 2.
Right.
Like season 1, Dylan is like, yeah, and you do this chord and you get the finger traps and you
He
get
had a
the
whole drawer
caricature.
full of finger
Yeah.
traps. It meant the world to him.
Yeah, those were his prized possessions. And he met Gretchen twice, I think, 3 times maybe.
Yeah, something.
And
A handful. Yeah.
and he was willing to give her like this ring made of his prized possession essentially, and I just thought that was so beautiful and such a amazing detail that I did not notice at first. So shout out to the comments.
Also, there's just an idea of just, and I know this was at work, but like Dylan with like a hammer, like hammering out like a bunch of finger, like finger traps or whatever. That's not how we would make that, obviously. I know, like, or whatever. But I think like I don't know. It was just. I forged this for you, like, you know what I mean? Like
and it's one of the only things that he can say is his.
Right.
You know, like
Yes.
how do the
space.
innies define their possession? They don't have any possessions. Everything is lumens. They kind of are lumens. Like who owns the innies? You know, is it the body or is it the company that can make it come out?
Right.
But it makes me think like I think like Dylan could reintegrate far easier than Mark can right now, right? Because he sees his child and he recognizes him as his child. You know, almost like a possession in a way. Like that's mine.
Right.
Whereas Mark is seeing Gemma and being like, "That's not my wife." I
don't know who that is. Yeah, good luck, lady.
Yeah, it's like it makes me fear reintegration a little bit, especially with Mark, because you take one person and you separate them out, and now when you try to put them back together, they're going to be more than the sum of their parts. Right. And how is that going to work?
Right.
I'm actually I'm afraid of it, but I think Dylan might be able to do it a little bit easier than some of the others.
At least it's the same. It's the same gal. It's the same person.
I mean,
so much. What was that one line where he goes like, "I told you about us."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, is this like an Imogen Heap lyric or something like that?
Yeah.
What's going on? This is so crazy. Like,
oh, dude, when he was like, was he happy for us?
right.
Innocent.
Oh,
So innocent sometimes.
Yeah. You know, we're pattern seeking, you know, animals. Like I see my wife and I immediately get a feeling, you know. I have to imagine that Dylan's brain's doing the same thing and he's going, whoa, look at that lady. Because he is calling upon a lot of experiences and thoughts and trauma with that relationship. He just doesn't know what it is because he's severed from it.
Yeah.
Such an interesting thing.
It's like a dream.
How great is?
It's like a dream that you can't remember. It's like a dream that you can't remember type shit.
Yeah, how great is the writing that he has better chemistry? Like his Audi has better, or Innie has better chemistry with his wife than his Audi does.
Yeah.
Like his Audi's kind of a loser and his Innie is like a rock star. And like his Audi's jealous of his Innie. Like it's just,
When you take away everyone's trauma, they're fantastic.
I mean, right. This guy, Innie Dylan doesn't have to pay bills. He doesn't have to watch kids. He doesn't have to.
He doesn't have stress the same way that everybody else does. Yeah.
That's so true.
It's just the numbers are scary, and that's his day.
Audi Dylan has a relationship that he's grown with, whereas Innie Dylan, and this is the beginning of his relationship. I loved and hated that she was like, I see you in him, like what you used to be.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so interesting. Like that.
She's cheating on him with him.
Like, I mean, or just like it's like oh, it's my partner, but they don't do like a couple of the things that drive me fucking crazy. You know what I mean? It's just that would be quite attractive.
The nature of like splitting these characters in half and making me feel so heartwarming and so devastated at the same line. Because when you hear that, you go, "Oh, that's nice to hear." You know, I see you. To know that you're in me. You know, is to say like, oh, that's nice. I appreciate you. Also, it's to say you're a tool that I use to calm myself whenever I'm living my real life. You know, it's like it's so sweet and it's so devastating at the same time.
Yeah. And I love the letter too that Audi Dylan writes Innie Dylan, where he's like, first of all, fuck you. Second of all, I get it. Like that was so sick.
It's very Dylan.
All right, Adam and Bradley, aka Bradham. So we're gonna wrap up sort of the season 2 talk with bigger picture about Lumen. I feel like the Gemma episode, at least for me, gave me a lot of insight into why this whole Severance experimentation is happening. But what do you think they are doing? What are they prepping the world or their company for?
You're hitting us with the big questions.
I'm sorry. I know. You're like, can I get the beard question?
And you only get 90 seconds. Like
you get 90 seconds. And what is the point of the show? Go. No, I'm kidding. But I have other questions if you want them. But
well,
what do you guys think?
It is interesting. You do get. Okay, there was some interesting discourse about the Cobell episode.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people were like, boring, like next, like only 30 minutes. I don't care about her. First of all, don't talk about her like Patricia Arquette like that.
Yes.
Like, I've been waiting to have her back on my screen.
That is one of David Lynch's muses, damn it. Come on.
Yeah. In the Gemma episode, you get, the tidbits, like the logo on the machine that the phlebotomist is using, and on the intake form at the fertility clinic. And so you have originally our guess was water, their logo on the water tower, the waterfall. There was lots of
it's in the water. Yeah, but then the comments were like, that's a blood drop. It's not a water drop.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh, okay. Also, first of all, I'm sure you guys had the same experience.
I would have not thought that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Revelation I just had.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I thought the water tower was a spaceship.
It's
you
aliens.
go all over with this show.
He actually pointed out something that made us think that right before Mark passes out after reintegration, he looks at it's like a cup of water, and it like shakes a little bit. And that's when Adam was like, oh my gosh, it has to do with water. And then
I'm like, what
you
does
like
he
start
see?
to see all these
That's
things. Like,
fair.
what does he see in the water? Does he know something that the audience doesn't? And then we ended up going that route.
But then we pivoted because our comment section is, I'm sure you guys have the same experience. They're like the craziest investigators you've ever, like, we think that we go pretty deep with it, but then like our comment section will pull out some like things you can only find on Reddit threads, like blood and this and that and this detail.
But also crazy conspiracies like Rickon's a goat. Like,
Right. Yeah. They're like,
Oh, wow.
They grew Rickon.
they're like Pearl Harbor on the crib that's in like point, size 6 font. That of course I'm not gonna see. My eyesight's not that good.
They're
But-
growing clones inside of the goats. Like you're just like, I don't know, man. But anyway, yeah.
But we're talking a lot about how, and some people are for, some people are against this, about whether what they're doing has to do with babies and pregnancies and the Egan lineage. And if there's some unification of those things that we don't know about, obviously, like, that is how Lumen got introduced in the backstory with Gemma and Mark, was when she went to the clinic and it was Lumen. We actually see Dr. Maurer walk by in that, and that scared me so bad. But people were now talking about whether Helena were pregnant because Mark and Helena had sex now twice. And like that would be a heartbreaking juxtaposition of like,
Jesus,
here's your wife who you were not able to conceive with, and then if like, I don't know, there's so many themes about duality and like life and death and this and that. And so that coupled with the Egans have this weird thing, again, back to like the Walt Disney thing, there's like such a
living
desire
forever.
to preserve your name and your lineage. And like, I used to think it was like, are they trying to like live forever or bring back Kier? And like, is Kier going to be reincarnated as Mark and Helly's baby? Like, that's where my brain was going with Gemma. But then you have to reel yourself in, because it's like, well, now we're out here. Yeah. But that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we do see the we do see the baby Kier in the intro.
Yes.
That was actually my season 1 theory, was that Lumen is trying to empty out brains so they can, what does a capitalist want? They want everything, right? And then what's the one thing they can't have? Well, they can't live forever.
Yeah.
Well, what if we rent your body for 8 hours a day? What if we just take your body forever? That's kind of what I was thinking.
Especially with the
Lumen was.
goats. Like, we put maybe these people's minds in the goats when the goats are ready.
Sure.
Like, I remember
I thought about
thinking
that.
And like,
This is like not anything. It's just funny. When we were watching and they were about to sacrifice the goat, and Bradley was like,
they're gonna put Gemma in the goat, and I was like, no, they're not. I misread the line, and I was like, they're putting Gemma in the goat, and he was like, no, they're just gonna bury the goat.
Yeah.
Especially with a mystery box show, especially and one that is as activated as this, you have to remember the mantra: we listen and we don't judge. Because your mind goes into so many fucking crazy places. Like,
oh, absolutely. I have all of my notes that I've taken.
Oh wow! Yeah, you're always writing notes, Eric, and I always wonder what is he writing.
I have everything.
There it is.
I have a page per episode, and I just tried to. I had the 5 questions in the first episode. You know, it's mainly just to make sure I'm keeping track of everybody's names and stuff. But it looks like the writings of a madman.
I like that Eric's having his Pepe
never watched the
Sylvia
show,
moment.
Reads your notes. They're freaking out.
He's having his Always Sunny Pepe Sylvia moment. We're just like, hey, talk about the goats. I want to talk about the goats. I've been dying to tell something about the goats. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
I wondered,
just to add to the baby thing. I feel like they have been the subject of babies has been really relevant in season 2. Like the whole birthing retreat is just so strange to me. Yep. I feel like that's a big thing, and it's absolutely chilling whenever Cobell looks at the guard or whatever and says she's one of James. That scene just opened up my mind. I was like, what is this? Like you said, puppet dad doing. he is just a scary guy, and hearing that phrase come from Cobell just made me even more scared of him. And again, why is he potentially just impregnating women? Are there more children like Helly? Does he just have more kids and he just chooses the one that is closest to Kier, and this is my favorite one? I just feel like there's so much mystery there. And then also the whole season is building up to the reveal of Cold Harbor. What is Cold Harbor? And when we finally see it, her 25th outie is just her taking apart the baby's crib. And I just feel like there's so much symbolism behind that, and there's so much metaphor there that I don't know, I'm excited to see them dive deeper into this whole baby message, because I feel like that there is so much of that. And like you said, Eric, the babies in the intro, the little Kier baby, I don't know, I feel like
the little boss
that's
baby.
Not just random.
We also know an Innie has gotten pregnant.
True.
Yes.
The news,
Season 1.
They interviewed Natalie, and there's this, woman is suing Lumen because her Innie got pregnant.
Yeah, hilarious.
Crazy.
You come back and you're like, who brought this kid here? What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Here? You know what I mean? It's right. It's like we got to work I'll take 2 weekends a month.
Are you paying child support?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, 100%. Absolutely.
I wondered after the Gemma episode, because they have her go through a simulation of a plane crashing, and the one where she's like, it's always fucking Christmas. And I was just, what a nightmare. I wondered if they were preparing, because I still see, I know the Disney thing, but I still see it more of an Amazon kind of company. And, Amazon wants to be Amazon groceries, Amazon everything, we'll all be prime citizens one day, probably. And
they just started a medical.
They were preparing some sort of severance for the masses, where if you are afraid of flights, or you don't want to go through pregnancy or giving birth, all that, could you just sever yourself? Is this something they would sell to rich people? But now when you guys are talking about all this, I was like, oh, it's probably even more sinister. And it's probably, it's something with birthing and stealing bodies and the rich,
I think I think my ultimate sort of theory about what's going on has been that with the revelations of this season, is that yes, all the Innies for Gemma that we see, the planes, the dentist, everything is the push for a mass market rollout of you can sever yourself through any sort of traumatic event that you don't want to be a part of,
But then they
whether
gotcha.
it's attacks or whatever. I think maybe they just perfected that really quickly with the birthing process for Jane, because that's obviously something that they need to get going for the internal processes. But then I do think that's just a front for what their ultimate goal is. I still believe that there's a resurrection thing on the table for Kier.
I think the sinister part is what they don't say out loud. But this last episode did have a line talking about Lumen's eternal war against pain.
Yes.
When you think, especially what they put Gemma through, she's dismantling that crib, which should give her nothing but inconsolable trauma.
Mhm.
She's doing it without thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and like that's what they promised the world. Like, you know, avoid the pain of pregnancy,
Yeah.
avoid the pain
Yeah.
of losing somebody.
That's what I'm saying, Matt. For the
Avoid,
masses.
you know, but what is pleasure without contrasting it to pain?
Right.
You know, how do you do
But-
that?
If it's only peaks, then there's no, and then
Yeah.
how do we
Yeah.
make the difference? You know what I mean? And also, like, there's an element to so many, like, if they can nail this, and we can we can have literally, because the whole thing is about like how the echoes of this other life, you know what I mean, kind of start bumping up against one another. And if we can do possibly one of the most like searing, you know, like you said, traumatic kind of like you know, instances and divorce her from that, like there's like a military application to this that could be fucking terrifying. Like there's
Oh
like
my gosh.
very weird, like there's like, I mean, like you can go into so many, like, you know, like there's a lot of dark stuff that it can be sprung out of it. But right now they're just like, no, we just want to take away your pain. Doesn't that sound good?
Yeah.
We'll take away your
Great.
pain.
Just get a little
You know what I mean? Like
input
your head.
shit
It'll
like
be
that, so.
great.
Well, and that's what's so special about this show is they've created something that's so not simple. Obviously, it's very complex, but it's in an office. Like it's this simple world that they've started with, but what's so special about it is they can do anything they want. We've seen a marching band and it just makes sense. Like they've created something so special that they can do whatever they want and we won't bat an eye. That's what's so special about the lumina of it all is that anything could be down there and it would ultimately kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Well, there's like there's a quote or something that's like, you amid absurdities you can commit atrocities and people won't notice. Something weird like that. Like
that doesn't sound
all
familiar
weird and
at all.
bizarre, but
that doesn't
apply to real life right now.
Like,
no.
If you can get somebody to believe absurdities, you can get them to commit atrocities.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
That's a good one. I do wonder, Mark, you know, we found out the numbers were Gemma, which great reveal. But what was everyone else doing? What were those scary numbers?
Exactly. Who were they working on?
Who the hell were they working on? Like,
I had a theory that the numbers, because they talked about how their emotions, right? Like, what do they feel like? I thought they were literally mapping their own brain, so that when Kier wants to, or somebody in the higher up wants to take over my body, they have a map of all my emotion and then can delete it. That's what I thought was going on. But it's not my emotions. He's doing it to Gemma. He's the person that knows her the most, right? How she feels. So it's kind of what they're doing, but to another person.
Yeah. I just thought that the other people were just helping create the room where Mark was specifically helping with Gemma's trauma.
Right.
That looks like. But yeah, like just going back to your Severance, like just think of Amazon perfecting utility of raising trauma that can be mass produced. Like everybody is a customer. Like everybody, when you are in pain, it could be something small. It could be something from like trauma from army, being in the military. Like you can't really subjectively quantify that pain. Like from breakup, it's something that people can use. Whereas somebody dying also, and I just thought a baby was a version of a kid who has innocent, who doesn't have a trauma. So like become a baby again, like who doesn't have a trauma, become a clear, past that, and then now you're a whole new person, which is essentially resurrecting yourself. Now you don't have trauma, you have a whole different person now.
That's well said.
It's very scary. Because seeing Gemma go through all those rooms, just where she's getting dental work done on like so much pain and you don't remember it, like pregnancy, you don't remember. It's like, it's just such a scary concept. Terrifying.
I know, like
every time we watch that show.
You are the way you are because of the pain you felt.
Yep.
You know, you aren't that person without it.
True, but like we've seen so many people who severed themselves, right? Mark severed himself because they just think at the end of the day, maybe that's how we're gonna continue living life. But it's hard. It's hard to be like, you need pain.
And I do love to have that. That's why I really feel like the Cobell episode is so integral to like the ultimate theme of the show, which is because we learn all this started as an ether factory and child labor and like kids huffing ether to cope with like their lives, and like that's their own way of severing themselves to just get high off the stuff and just leave it behind so they can like get through the day, and just the implications of, like what Lumen was doing to them over time. And like I feel like that, ultimately what the show will end up being about is just like this idea of that, like the trauma that you go through is like still part of like who makes you who you are, and like what you can achieve through it, and like trying to separate yourself from that will ultimately just just end up making things worse. I do think one sort of wild theory I have from that, though, from the Cobell episode, is they kept mentioning in the paintings and everything Kier's bride Imogen that he met at the Ether Factory. There's a part of me that feels like she was a child bride that he married. And woe is supposed to represent whoa.
They met at an Ether Factory. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, the
I like that.
woe is supposed to represents her because she's like a gaunt bride, and she's like really small.
I already hate Kier. Now I hate him even more.
Wow.
There's this whole like weird fucking thing. Like it's like I wish you'd take them raw. Like there's this shit going on with this.
Yeah, he needs to be thrown in a wood chipper for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we need to give
He's
him,
a bad guy.
We need to give him the full Buscemi and fucking like stuff that motherfucker in there, like everything. Yeah,
That creepy scene with James saying, "I wish you'd take them raw." So earlier in I think it might be season 1, Milchick mentions that Kia's favorite food was raw egg, something or other, and then raw egg. And when James says that to Helena, it's right before he tells like Helly that I see Kia in you, not in my other daughter. So I feel like that scene was him just kind of like honing in on the fact of like, you know what, Helena, you ain't Kia material.
You ain't Kier.
Get
You're my
your
only
into
choice,
it.
but you're not the best choice.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So it went from being way creepy to like, all right, it's just some very unsettling foreshadowing. That's fine.
Yeah, even then, like
right.
I think someone here. Yeah, I think someone here might point out, maybe another channel, like someone point out, like Helly R inside likes eggs. Like we've seen her before with the acorn and everything. She actually likes eating eggs more than Helena does. So again, it's all part of that foreshadowing.
Watch, and you're just like, please don't. Like, can we not? Like,
there's also actually what's so interesting about the baby thing too is there's this idea that like these innies are being born.
Yeah.
And so perhaps the reason James sees Kier and Helly and not Helena is because Helly is this childlike form of Helena, which is the reason he sees Kier in her again, even though he's talking to her,
he
like,
said that he used to see it in her, but it faded and everything because you stamped it out, you weird dusty shit. Like
that's on you.
You're not supposed
like,
to feel anything, not even fire.
Like, why are you like this? Even though this is exactly what you're just like, come on, man. Like, Jesus.
I loved Helly's reactions to him too. She's like, "What the fuck?
You are so weird."
Grabbing the Sharpie as a weapon.
Did we think that she was? I thought she was going to stab him. I thought she was going to
something.
I mean, the shot is her with the knife here. I wondered if Jim was dead.
You know what's sus about it? Because we never saw ending of that scene. So I'm curious on how that ended. Like how that discussion went from
did he just walk away?
Being prepared to attack him to just...
I think he walked away. But even then, like I think she wouldn't let that happen.
Slowly, Homer Simpson just backed away. Or whatever. Like,
that scene's interesting too because I feel like everybody at Lumen treats the innies like different people from the outies, but he uses the word "my Helly" when he addresses her. It's really interesting. I don't know exactly
probably
what
sees it as like his
it's
children or something.
And I think it's also because we have like this weird sort of like kind of like corporate and cultish kind of like thing kind of interlocking themselves like here. And so, and the thing is, like when you have people that think that they are touched by the divine, that think that they have like a a keyhole to that, most of the time, like, this thing that was created within my dominion, where that goes back to the Cobell stuff. Therefore, I made it. You know what I mean? And I can take it, and I'm the one that takes credit for it. And then the corporate way, it's like it's an echo of like one of my favorite shows ever, The Wire, when the corner kids are talking about chicken McNuggets, and they're like, man, I bet the guy who came up with the chicken McNugget is richer than a motherfucker. And then the one guy's just like, no, man, the guy at the top is rich. The guy, he's still in the basement thinking of some other shit to make the other guy rich, because they don't like you like that. They're just going to take that stuff. They're going to take your labor. They're going to take all that stuff, and they're going to, you know, they're going to kind of pass it off as their own and everything. And that was what that kind of elicited to me. You know?
Good reference, Sean.
Yeah.
Dude, the Wire Gang all day.
Oh, I know. I watched it during the pandemic. Finally, great. Highly recommend. Next pandemic, you guys should definitely check it out.
The next pandemic.
Oh
Next
no.
pandemic.
Well, I mean, not with fucking RFK and the thing. Who knows? I mean,
Very possible.
sorry to do it. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, Eric R. That wraps up all my season 2 questions. Thank you all for enjoying them equally. If you want to take over season 3 chat.
Yeah, you know, thankfully Ben Stiller has said that we're not going to wait another 3 years for season 3. So hopefully it's not 2.9 years, you know, and we're just under the wire.
It might be 2 though.
Yeah, might be 2. That's like the standard now. For
That's
so
the
many
type
shows.
of thing that we're in now. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, going, you know, from season 2, like I said earlier, it felt like it was such a masterclass of a finale because they took so many big swings that. With a few tweaks, you could really tie it up as a series finale. Mark could have walked out, you know, that door with Gemma, and we could have saw like a postscript of like Lumen falling or whatever. You know, they could have wrapped up something for us. But I think the ending of them just running down the hall is like such a perfect choice. I mean, I know they even said Ben Stiller said that initially they were going to end it with Mark not choosing yet who he was going to go with. It was going to black with
those
him.
bastards.
They didn't do that.
Yeah. Them running down the hall though, like sets it up so like you can do, like, you know, Bradham said, you can really do anything. They can go anywhere. They can go to another floor. They can like barricade their floor, whatever. They can fight it back with the band. There's so many possibilities of what can happen like immediately, and I think that's such a great way to sort of set up the season for next season. So I kind of want to get into everyone's sort of theories. What we talked about a little bit, what you think is ultimately going on, but also just what you kind of want to see, what you want to explore, you know, in the next season. What characters do you think, you know, their trajectory will be? So again, we'll go back up to the top. Eric, going from season 2, the ending. I'll ask everyone this really quick. Your brief thoughts on Mark's final choice, choosing Helly over Gemma, and how you think that will then lead us into season 3.
Yeah, I mean, the show had done such a good job of showing me that Mark's Innie and Audi are 2 different characters that I completely understood his choice, even though I was frustrated because I care about other things. But he's like, I care about this. And that's important for that character to have agency. But I could not get out of my head that as they're running away and the white and the yellow lights are going, it looks like a target is being painted upon them. So I just imagine that they're not going to be... I don't know where they run to. There's nowhere to go. They're surrounded by a mode of severance, you know? But I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is I felt like Irv got on a train and left. And I have so many more questions about what Audi Irv was doing when he was trying to map out what's going on with him.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Who was he talking to?
The phone. Who was he talking to on the phone?
Yeah, so that's the thing I'm looking forward to in terms of like the story unfolding. But I will also say, because we've made a lot of talk about, you know, Lost and other shows that have these giant mystery boxes. The thing about mystery boxes is as the answers come, you're going to lose some people because they fell in love with their theories more than what's presented, you know? So I just, everybody
manage
out
your
there
expectations.
Exactly. And manage your expectations. Let the storytellers tell you the story. They are the best at telling their story, you know? So I want to give them as much room as possible to do that. So my only thing is I must know what Irv was up to. Everything else, show me, please.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see more of Irv. I was a little worried that John Turturro might have just called a wrap on it because he's not in any of the, you know, subsequent press tours and everything. But there's so much stuff open. I feel like they definitely have more to explore there. Rob, getting into season 3 again, like going from Mark's choice, how did you feel about that, and how do you think that ties into the future episodes?
I feel like the whole finale, I was just going back and forth, like between the ships, like Mark and Gemma, Helly and Mark. Like I was going into it like, all right, Operation Rescue Gemma. We're going to get her out of here no matter what. And then the whole like, I'll meet you at the equator thing happened. And I was like, all right, it's Helly and Mark. It's Helly and Mark. And then I saw the Mark Scout walk into the Cold Harbor room and see Gemma, tearing down the crib, and like the emotion of that reunion when she comes out of the room finally and they see each other again. I was like, all right, never mind, it's Mark and Gemma. Like I just kept going back and forth the whole episode. And
right?
honestly, I feel like there was no wrong choice in the end. Like I would have been satisfied regardless, and I'm unsatisfied that the other option didn't happen. But I think it was in the like about the episode, or like how we made the episode thing at the end of the actual episode, and Adam Scott said like Mark made the decision because this is who he loves, and 10 minutes with her is better than never seeing her again, and the alternative. So I thought that, yeah, exactly, it's super romantic. It's very, very special, and I think it makes my heart warm for Mark and Helly, but it makes it also hurt for Gemma so bad.
That was
tough. But I think
pleasure without pain.
No, not at all. I think for Mark S, it definitely made the most sense. And I mean, that last shot I think was just the cherry on top. Just seeing them run down the hallway together was just so perfect. And
iconic.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we were talking about it before we started, but Eric, you said like I feel like that will be an image that we'll see when talking about like the great shots of television. So definitely a very special finale. I'm happy with how it ended. And looking at season 3, I feel like I could talk forever about each character, but I think like someone mentioned before, I definitely want a Milchek episode. Sort of how we got like the Cobell episode in this season. I don't understand why people didn't like that episode. Honestly, I thought it was fantastic, and I would love to see them do something similar with Milchek. So that's a big thing. I sort of got this idea during this discussion, and us talking about how much it seems that James kind of prefers Helly to Helena at this point, and like how he sees Kier and her more so than Helena, and like just is there a possibility that like at one point will the innie become the outie? Could they do exactly? Yeah, is there a potential where he's like, I don't like Helena anymore, and he just swaps them, and then
distressingly good impression by that.
Really sorry. But I just think that I thought of that during this talk, and I feel like that would be really, really scary. But at the same time, Heliar would just fuck shit up if she was just outside. She would just cause mayhem. So I feel like that would not be in their best interest to do that. But an interesting idea.
Yeah, they definitely would have a problem on their hands. But yeah, then when they have the Glasgow block that we saw, they could maybe have an inverse of that to keep the outies, inactive on the outside or whatever. That makes me think of another question that I had for we'll move over to Navi. Again, going with like the Mark and Helly stuff. Do you think that outie Mark was lying to any Mark about completing reintegration of like once they were out? And again, how's season 3?
I mean, yeah. So why would he reintegrate once he get Gemma, right? There's no reason. And I think his sister kind of also said like he's kind of right. Like she kind of confirmed it that there's no reason for him to reintegrate, which is very dangerous. Garby's nowhere to be found. The way she operated was also very questionable.
Very.
So I think there's no point of reintegrating unless they want to reintegrate to show the world what Lumen has been up to. But that's only if Mark survives reintegration, and clearly PD didn't. And I don't know what technology has Ragabi brought back new to work it this time. So I think it's dangerous for them to reintegrate. So going back to like the ending, I was frustrated, but it made sense because Mark S did do his job. He saved Gemma, but that doesn't mean he has to kill himself. Like essentially, that's what outie Mark was saying. Like, save my wife and then kill yourself.
Save my wife and then walk off the plane.
Like, it's like that's a big ask for somebody.
Yeah.
Like, he saved Gemma. He doesn't. Then he can do whatever. So And yeah, agreed, Rob. I think the question of like Helly being the outie, seeing maybe there's any uprising in season 3, because something's gonna happen if Helly is the Kier. Helly can use this as a leverage, like keep Mark as. Then is now we are retrieving Mark as arc for the next season 3, whatever that looks like. The other thing I really, really want in season 3 is to get the answer on why Mark and Gemma. Why were these two picked to do this? And I recently heard this theory. It kind of rocked my world. That, and I think Eric, you kind of brought it up as well. Like in Ether, Kier found his child bride. So what if Cobell gave birth to Mark? So what is Mark like? Maybe that's why he been, like James had other people, and because in the end was the last episode where Cobell was like, "I care for you." It's like, why the hell would you say that to Mark? Like, you don't know this person.
You were just they're in a
my
town
God.
that's controlled by Lumen, and they're at birthing clinics. I mean, like that's the whole thing. As far as like, I mean, like the whole idea of just like who the fuck are you outside of it? Like, totally.
I think you blew that right open. That's very possible.
Right, so like Cobell's been keeping eye on Mark, and then when Gemma thing happened, maybe that's like, this is the way we can renovate this chip. That's why she was so into the severed floor, has been around, like, and when she was giving the birthing lactation classes to the sister, also was like, how does she know this? Does she have a kid? Like, how would she just know how to do the whole thing?
Well, Mark did mention his mom when he was talking to Ragabi and mentioned her name was Fern Scout. That does not mean that's really his mother.
Oh, sure.
But like we did hear her name, so I don't.
Well, it could have been like adopted mother.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's what it feels like. So what about the sister? Are they not related? Like, I mean, there's a lot of questions there too, right? But like when I heard this recently, somebody saying it was like, that makes so much sense. Like it is a possibility. She could have been 15 because she's in her 50s and he's in his 40s. Like she could have been a child.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why she's stuck around. That's why she knows about James giving birth to kids.
I mean, that could be the sinister truth of what the Wintertide Fellowship is,
Oh my God, Navi! That's crazy!
Oh my God!
It's been in my head the last few years.
Wait, and Miss Wong is a kid.
Yeah,
Miss Wong is a kid.
A child.
So she could be a child mother.
They're relocating her bed as well.
That's what she's going. Oh my God!
Maybe that child's supposed to go to Wintertide, and somehow she like escaped it.
Oh God, Miss Wong, run!
Yeah, the whole question never got answered. Like, why Mark and Gemma? Why do we have this couple? Why did Gemma do what's like? How did she got in that situation? There's like,
why are they the chosen one?
Why are they chosen one?
Yeah.
I'm latching on to that. I had one more detail. This is a callback to something that we were talking about a minute ago when somebody was talking about what if they just oust like Helena? Helly comes to the spotlight. There was a detail, the last episode or something like that, when Helen is swimming in the pool, right? And then like one of the next scenes is Miss Huang smashing the swimmer. Like getting rid of it essentially. Like we can't have this anymore. And I was wondering, is that a parallel to like
it's gotta be
we're gonna get rid of Helena? Like this is the end for her. I don't know. That was just
I like that.
Yeah.
She's wearing the old timey bathers as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just such a weird, like, why have it be that toy?
And with the Kier head, like,
the thing with this show is like everything that the show has a meaning to it. Like when Helly or Helena couldn't figure out how to turn on the computer, it was like, that's Helena. Like, why would you show us that scene? Like, why would you show it?
Everything is very, very intentional, and it's so clear, and I love that about this show.
Yeah. I mean, there's such great foreshadowing. I think we're stuff that's going to pay off later that we don't even know about yet.
Right.
That we've already seen. Adam, getting into the future of the show, like what could pay off. Again, what do you think of that finale? And then how do you think things will progress for season 3?
Yeah. So I mean, season 3, I see the innies just taking more and more control. We've sort of seen that grow from the very beginning of the first season until now. The innies have continued to take over more and more and more. So I think in season 3, we're going to get a full-blown innie takeover of a character. Actually, I think we're going to get multiple. I think we might get Dylan. I think we're going to get innie Dylan living outie Dylan's world. I don't know how this is going to happen, but I think we're going to see something along the lines of that. And I think Helly R and Mark S are both going to stay severed, because James clearly wants Helly to be the new future of Kier and everything like that. Helly is in love with Mark S. So I think Helly's going to use Mark S as leverage to keep both of them severed, and they'll stay working in Lumen together. And then that's going to be the reason that Mark S is trapped inside Lumen, and Gemma and the gang will try and, break him out. So it'll be like a reverse.
Which is an interesting juxtaposition. Like the innies are holding the outies hostage instead of the outies holding the innies hostage.
I like that.
I love thinking about what the third season intro is going to be.
Oh my god!
Because the first one is very much, they are separated and like kind of intrigued, but the second season intro, they're walking around like an absurdist version of the other person's experiences. And now I'm thinking that the third season is going to be a war upon themselves, where they're actively going against the other person. Because I don't think that outside Mark is, when he next comes to, is going to be like, oh, I get it, I understand. Right. He's only going to see that you made a choice that made me lose my wife.
Correct.
Yeah. And I can't blame either of them. So a possible, to not have a better word, war between those two, I don't know who I'll root for.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the guy who actually made those intros.
Yeah.
I think Ben Stiller found him on Instagram. This is why I'm so against AI. Like, this is like an actual artist who made this. It's so beautiful.
Yep.
Like AI
He's done like these weird kind of they're sort of like kind of like physics thing, like ragdoll physics like type things with certain stuff, but like he'll turn somebody's head into like it's like made, it has no bones in it and it droops down or whatever it was. And I remember I remember when I saw it, I clocked immediately. And also it's a throwback to like the opening title sequence. You know what I mean? Which is kind of like a little bit of a throwback now, like kind of like we're sort of in the binge model. And that's also the other thing that's dope about this show, is that it's like this weekly zeitgeist like thing that we all kind of experience in the same moment and shit. And so I mean, like so good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I think no, Eric, I think definitely like war, I think, is probably a word that will be on the table for next season. Ben Stiller, like said in the after show thing on the finale, that they've talked about the macro data uprising throughout the season, and this is the official start of that. Right. And so we're going to see, I think maybe now they have an army with like the
marching band
band, to like fight with. So maybe we'll see them go up against another department or something in this contingency. Angela, how do you see things going in season 3 for, I guess, those elements and beyond?
Well, it's funny because I see it kind of not as a war, but like a quiet infiltration. I think that definitely Dylan and Helly R is going to try to work together with Milchek. They're going to try to, because I feel like Milchek and Helly R could run Lumen and change everything. But I think it's going to be those three that are really like helping the innies get out. But I think Mark is going to have a hard time because he is reintegrating and he doesn't have the medication that Ragabi was having him take. And I feel like he might get flashes of Gemma. He might get flashes of the outie life while he's an innie. And I think that he's going to struggle a lot with that. And then I don't know if he'll struggle necessarily with his feelings for Helly. But like he might kind of get more sympathy for Mark Scout. And I don't know if they're going to keep doing the Severance change where they're innies and outies. I don't know if we're going to see that. And then of course, I think Irving will, swing in at the last minute and be a hero some way, somehow. I'm trying to like go against, like, I'm just like, okay, there's going to be a war. I'm trying to go against that thought because everything that I have ever thought that this show was going to do never happens. Like none of my theories, anyone else's theories, like everyone is completely wrong. And so I'm just like, well, what would be the opposite of a war? Like quiet, peaceful infiltration that like maybe people don't know that they're innies and they're out in the real world doing things and moving chess pieces and getting things together to, bring Lumen down, but to help all these innies possibly reintegrate in a way where they can still have autonomy. Because I think this season really taught us that they are completely different people and that they deserve their autonomy. And I think that like Dylan realized that. I think Mark Scout did not want to realize that. I think Irving actually even realized that. And so we need Heliar and Helena to also realize this and have empathy for the other. I don't love Helena, but we can figure out a way to make it work where we don't have just people straight up die and they're gone and their existence is wiped. I would really like for season 3 to figure that out.
Yeah, it could be a very like East-West Berlin type thing. Like we've kind of been in a Cold War anyway, but maybe like a slightly escalated version of it or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's
Yeah, sharing like custody of the mind, finding a way.
Negotiations and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a hostage situation at this point, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, if like the goats turn out to be something more, so maybe something cloning-esque, maybe they can clone them their own bodies. They could put their innies in new bodies and have them live happily ever after in their own way.
Yeah,
I would
Sean.
love that.
Yeah, Sean, how do you feel about going into season 3?
I feel good. I think that there's several things. I mean, like, and not to, because we've talked about the ending shot specifically ad nauseum, and Bradham said iconic, and it is iconic, and we said iconic, and it is iconic. The reason is I'm gonna put you guys on some game right now because like it's iconic because it's been iconic before, because you can tell. That Ben Stiller and the creative team, they love the kind of 60s, 70s kind of aesthetic and stuff like that. They like these film stocks that are very grainy. They like it to feel kind of classic and kind of well-worn and stuff. And so what I think that the ending shot was an amalgamation of two of the best endings of any movies ever. It's The Graduate and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which was a little, because they're literally like as in like The Graduate's DNA is like these two people who are just so desperate, they're in love, they're in an impossible situation, surrounded by forces that are like kind of envelop their whole world, and they're just saying, fuck it. Like they're just saying, we are gonna try for something, even if it's 10 minutes or it's the rest of our lives. Like it's in a way it is like the most human thing. It's like whether it foregoes all logic, but we're gonna try. There's a hope. There's a whisper of it, right? And that's where at the end of The Graduate, where Dustin Hoffman, where basically the two kids like who have told that they can't be together are running away together, and they run. And there's literally a shot where the camera is pushing forward and zooming out, so it looks like they're not going anywhere.
Oh, that dolly zoom.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But like a super long one, like on like a street or whatever, so they just don't look like they're moving. And then they finally get on this bus, and then they're just like, oh, well, what do we do now? Like we're just exactly like, and there's that, and then the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid one is like these two. Like there's a firing squad out front. These two like are two heroes who we've come to love and cherish and understand. I think one of the great buddy at action movies of all to action. But and they're just like, we're going out, and they go out and they're like mid like kind of like thing. It's a freeze frame. It stops and it zooms in on them as you listen to the music. So I think it was like it was a reintegration of those two like kind of like iconic like end things that made but tailor fit for this show that I thought was great. Sorry. And then like it's like a film school nerd coming out. Like
hey, I mean that generational image. Somebody watching this today, a kid, will be like, I'm gonna do the Severance ending.
Yeah,
and it's going to pass it on.
It's building blocks, absolutely, 1,000%. And so, I think maybe as far as like season 3, something that's very interesting. Like I think there's like two things that I'm very, very specifically looking for, or that I think would be super interesting. Obviously, we have everything that's going on within Lumen. Potentially whatever. Whether it's a war, whether it's a hostage situation, whether it's kind of whatever, all that stuff. Gemma on the outside now, a person that was thought dead is now out in the world, and now Gemma has to go looking for Mark. And that's because like we've had I think it's Deacon Lockman, I think is how you say it. Like again, that's another discovery too. Fantastic, unbelievable, so incredible. Good, so incredible. And like to have her kind of be the active like agent, like searching for someone and flipping that script, I think is really fucking interesting.
Agreed.
And her I mean, like her hanging out with Devin and stuff like, and all this other shit.
I hope they don't try to reintegrate her with all those innies.
I hope
She doesn't need that.
Rain would have
And that's one of those ones where it's like, all right, I think we're just gonna have to rain check on the rest of the girls. I mean, like, I don't know if we can bring them all into this whole thing, but like that her as the outside like force, like trying to like now working against the Lumen and stuff like that. That'll be another thing that I think will also bring us into like more of the world. And that leads to my other point, where that's the other thing that I want to know is like, what is like Lumen's specific place in this version of this world? Like, there is this, because they're clearly so large of a economic entity that they have to kind of be like politically considered. I think it was like in season 1, they were having like a talking head, CNN type show where they're discussing what Lumen is doing. And it's one of those things like where we have these all the time where like these giant corporate entities like are literally holding sway over some of our literal ability to live. And they're just sort of like deciding what's important and what's not. And we're sort of like, that kind of doesn't seem right, but they got a lot of money or whatever the fuck. And so like, I kind of want to know like where they are. Cause like, I'm thinking like this kind of weird Cuba Vatican nation state type thing, like where there is like a section of the of the US that is like just it's like that's you don't go there, that's Lumen country.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, or like Handmaid's Tale.
Yes, 100%. Like and just like what other and I think that was the other thing where I think they mentioned the amount of countries, and I think it was slightly off or whatever.
Well, they're not even in a state, right? I remember stopping at one point and looking at a address and it didn't have a state that they were actually.
It was
like
they live in
or something.
And so this whole idea of just like where like the Lumen's what the world is and Lumen's place in it is like is another big element that I would love to kind of see expanded. So
will it ever not be winter?
Gemma and Lumen, is kind of like two big things I kind of want to see.
Well, we get another season,
right. Yeah,
definitely. That
show me spring.
Right. God, it looks so cold so much of the time.
Always.
I put a lot of thought into where the town of Kier actually is, and I'm kind of landing on like Siberia, like deep middle of Russia. When Drummond started talking, I was like, hello, Mr. Russian accent. So and it's all snow everywhere as well. So I'm thinking that it's like an isolated middle of absolute nowhere, which means it's not connected anywhere.
Right. Or it could be Greenland. Maybe that's why we're trying to buy it right now. Not to get too political, but I'm just saying. I mean, maybe there is a long game here.
Yeah. There we go. Jesus.
But I like Siberia. I think that's probably more accurate.
I think. And and we also have a CEO who's fathering like shitloads of fucking illegitimate kids, and is like an
only
piece
boys, by the way.
Right. No. That's what women are. Women are there to make more men. Like that's all that these fucking people think, you know what I mean?
He also has Neuralink, which is not too far off from Lumen, maybe.
The
sorry. Okay, we're getting actual dark. I'm sorry. Let's bring it back.
I'll stand on 10 toes. Fuck Elon Musk.
Bring it back to the market.
I speak solely for Sean, Tank Top LLC, etc. So forth.
I think there was a lot of elements in season 1 that sort of poked at the world at large. And what it means. I think they did a smart thing with season 2, sort of honing it in so we don't blow up too fast and then they have too many plates to spin on what they're developing, develop the characters. And next season we can maybe go out a little bit more again. Bradham, getting into the season 3 and then what we can learn from it, what would you like to see and what do you think is on the table?
Actually, it's interesting. You just said like sometimes a show can very quickly get a little too big for its britches. My constant, and I love this show and I will finish this show out, but we've watched it happen with Stranger Things, where it was this small town mystery that was so compelling. And then it gets big in season 2. And then season 3, like this cool 80s aesthetic, but we're doing this again. And then it's season 4 where it's this unstoppable force that we're stopping again. And now the world is ending again. So it's just this kind of However, I feel like with Severance, they have so much to play around with, and they've kept it so intimate while letting Lumen loom over the story.
Wait a minute.
I find that like they could drag the. I hope they. I mean, obviously, I want a million seasons of this show, but ultimately, I can tell that they have this story thought out, and there is a beginning and an end. And whether that's a trilogy or that's 6 seasons or 12, you can tell that you've done some serious planning, and that I don't have to worry about something like that happening.
I love that it's a continuation. They're not like, here's a new villain that we just came up with for this one more season. It's interesting. Like someone was complaining to me about like they were getting into the show and they're starting season 1. They'd watched only the first like 2 episodes. And they're like, oh, it's kind of slow. But like having watched the first 2 seasons, like the pacing is really important because like I don't know, it moves slow, but they
pack it with information.
Exactly. It's like these clues. Like you have to really be watching to catch it all. And so they give you a lot, and then it's like a slow build, and then both the finales we've had so far have been these big moments where it's like I love how they simultaneously give you so many answers. I walked away from this finale, I was like, oh my gosh, they gave us everything. And Bradley was like, what do you mean? I know nothing. Or like I have more questions.
They give you everything that you've been like pining for, but leaving you with so many questions that you're like, I'm satisfied with what I've been given. I can wait the year or 2 to get the rest of the answers that I want.
Right.
Yeah. But it's such a cool thing to be able to simultaneously like fulfill my desire as a viewer whilst like making me so frustrated. Like this cliffhanger moment with like, I was team Gemark. And I mean, like for a lot of the season, and like now it's up for debate. Like obviously, I want both people to be happy. They're different people, but I was one of those people who, like I was so heartbroken for Gemma, and all the comments were like, "You're not thinking of Helly," and I was like, "I'm trying to."
I'm trying to think of everyone.
You can hear about multiple people at one time.
And it's like this 2-season buildup to free Gemma. Of course, I feel like invested in like I don't know. But I'm really interested to see how it'll play out. I think we both talked about getting this like we've learned all about the innies, we've learned all about the outies. There's been this break Gemma out. I think we're gonna get some sort of revolution, like Ben Stiller said in the after credits of the finale. Like this is just the start of the macro uprising. I think it's gonna be more like a fight for reform than for like war on the inside. But then I think on the outside, it's going to be like a campaign to bring Lumen down. But your biggest, like the devil works hard, but Lumen PR works harder. Like I don't know how, even with evidence that they could stand against, a corporation or whatever they are as big as Lumen. So
Natalie's going to be working overtime.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think PR is like literally one of the only things that Lumen actually literally does well, because that's the other thing about it is that it's like, because, it's like, I don't know. It's like the most important shit that ever happened in the history of the human race. Like, and there's like, and it's just Seth on a motorcycle. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's like, and that's the other thing that it's another element to the show that is kind of like where they sort of are kind of like the veil of like the corporate meritocracy veneer, where he goes like, they're really powerful, so that means that they must be smart, so it means that they must be like they deserve it or whatever the fuck it is. And like you're as we are slowly seeing in real time, like these dipshits like know just about as much, if not way less than most people, and like and it's a shit show. You know what I mean?
What they're doing there, they have no security. Like there's no one guarding the parking lot, the doors. Like
it's so crazy.
Gemma's just gonna run out.
I think it kind of is like a bit of like a hubris thing too. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're both like they see themselves as gods, and gods don't die, and that's another part of probably one of the reasons that they want to do that. But then also like they're just like, well, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. We're sick. We're so sick. We're so sick.
We're in control here.
But also, Lumen
Lumen
owns the bar. They own the blood drive. They own the hospital. Like they don't care if Gemma escapes. She'll just go to another Lumen institution and she's like probably do control if it is like a country or a province or something. Like
And what's so interesting, Sean, you started to say something and it made me think about it. Like, first of all, I'm so excited. I was so excited for a Gemma Mark reunion. I am just excited for a Gemma Devin reunion.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
We've seen like how much Devin cares for Gemma, and that like it was my friend too. Like that scene was so heartbreaking when Mark was being the asshole. But
Mark's been an asshole a decent amount. This
At one time,
kind of a secret asshole, like you know what I mean. Well, that was the other thing. That was to that point, real quick. That was one thing I wanted. We talked about the diner scene and how that weird Helly like flirting, and I do think that there was like a little bit of chemistry. There was like a little bit of chemistry. There was like a little bit of kind of like pitter pat there, right? But what was interesting and how it related to the Mark S versus Mark Scout kind of like back and forth messaging. So a big tell that made him clam up super fucking hard was when she got Gemma's name wrong. And he goes like, oh, you're telling me how much you care about this and how concerned you are. And you actually don't even fucking know the love of my life's name that I'm on like this, that I'm on this search for. Right.
Here for.
And then, and then when it's like the idea of Mark Scout as an oppressor is so interesting because he's sitting there. He goes like, no, I'm totally going to integrate. It's totally good. Like, you know, just like and then he got Helly's name wrong when he was like, and that was a tell, and I think that was kind of a little bit of the moment where it's like, fuck man, like if he would have gotten that name right, he might have done it. He might have went out, but it's like, because it's like this old guy's like, this guy's again, he's asking me to save his wife and then kill myself essentially.
Well, Mark had a sales pitch. It wasn't like I care about you. It was like do this thing and like he's just manipulating the entire time.
No. Like I'll pay you afterwards. It'll be fun. It'll be cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's it was like it was just that mirroring of just like the even just the most base details of this person that has dominion over you. You know, that was with Helena and Mark Scout obviously, and then with Mark Scout and Mark S. I thought it was kind of this interesting kind of cascade of this idea, you know?
Well, I kind of have a question for you guys a little bit. Actually, I know we both do. We talked about this before we started. Do you guys think that they need Gemma and Gemma's chip back?
Oh yeah, like
do you think Lumen needs her?
That's crazy evidence. Yeah.
Not just they don't have the. Do you think they garnered the technology through the testing, or do you think they need her chip specifically?
They need to remove her chip because that's what's going to kill her.
Yeah. That's what Helly says in the office. Like once they remove the chip, then that's when she dies.
And it's one of those things like
where go and bury him, and there you go.
Right, and then it's one of those things like where it's like the chip because essentially Cold Harbor essentially worked until he came in and like pulled her out of the room, and so now she's like they're like, oh, we won the championship, but you know they took the trophy, you know, like or whatever it is, and like or whatever, and like and now we got to go find it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I that's an interesting idea.
And I think going back to the would Mark reintegrate, I think the bigger question is what would happen if Gemma reintegrate?
I think they're going to play around with that.
Yeah, because that's a bigger damning question. If Devin really is trying to write that book to a publication, like this is. Gemma was dead, and somehow Lumen got her body, and this is what Lumen is doing. I don't know if they will go down that way, but that's
was she ever dead? Did they clone her back? Like,
also,
what the fuck is going on? Like,
how does she reintegrate? She has 25 consciousnesses in her
and
brain.
they're all traumatic. It's going to be traumatic, but it's going to be a thing to tell, like, this is what they are doing when you don't know what you.
Oh, yeah. Maybe season 3 is like her on the news being like, it's all bullshit.
Dude,
here's what they did. You know,
fucked up is it? There's a crazy scenario where we could get a M. Night Shyamalan James McAvoy split situation with Gemma,
and she's like super strong.
She starts bounding like a gazelle, like you know what I mean, like in the parking lot. No, but like, I mean, I think that that's like a really hokey, bad idea. Don't put me on your writer's room or whatever. But like, like the fact that like you know we've seen Mark kind of go in between it, like to do that with 25 people. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty wild. I wonder how they're going to handle that.
Yeah,
I didn't really think about that because I think of reintegration and I think of two people that are growing while they're severed. Like, won't be able to fit back together. But if they can, like just a scenario of let's say you can have both severed people aware at the same time. I don't know how that would happen, but let's say you could do it.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And then walks in this lady that can do it 25 times, you know, like a literal like quantum processor of a person in a way.
Someone give something to the Christmas one, please. Take her to Disneyland or something.
Maybe that was also that could also be the I just thought of this. That could also maybe be a clue in as to why Gemma is so important, because it was that a Lumen thing. They're filling out a test form. She's filling out like they're giving blood and shit like that. Maybe the reason that they picked Gemma and why she's so important is because for whatever reason, the study of the genetics and whatever the fuck else it was, she is the person that could withstand 25 different personalities. Not everybody is built like your girl Gemma. And like
she's brilliant, right? Like
that's what I'm saying. And like, so I think maybe that's the one, maybe that's what makes her special. Is like we need to push this as far as we possibly can to see how far we can take this. And we know that she's strong enough to do it. You know what I mean? We know that, or we know that she's capable of doing it. So maybe that could be something.
Maybe some genetic markers and they could like tell ahead of time to like see if she can make it. It's a ton of stuff like obviously that we can pick apart with with that. I from what everyone's saying here, I do hope that we see a little bit of expansion in the world and the mythos of like Lumen and like kind of what they're doing. I would love a Milkshake backstory. I would love like if they gave us like like a Voldemort-esque like Kier backstory, like of like what his thing was, where he came from, what the truth is there.
Killed his parents.
And just figure out like what the truth actually is behind everything. And
also like with Bert and Irving, I'm ready. I want them to kiss. I was so fucking pissed off that they didn't do it, and I'm just like, get these two like old Brooklyn fucking dusty guys to come on over and just like I don't know. I mean, it's like
but they belong together in both worlds, so it makes sense.
Yes, and again, it doesn't gotta be crazy. Like we don't gotta slip the tongue over there or nothing like that. But we can just get like a nice little peck or something.
He's got that.
That was like my last thing that I wanted to get. I'm so sorry.
I would say the symbolism of them putting their foreheads together felt like their innies were touching. I don't know why that was.
No, I think that's really. I think that might be something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, season 1.
Bring back Irving.
Yeah, I know. Season 1, he said he's ready. Season 2 said he's not ready. Season 3, hopefully they can coalesce. They can find their way.
Please.
I think that sort of touches everything that we had on it in one word to describe the whole season. I think it's just astonishing. That's like really how I felt watching that ending, and just what it's been able to do with like the community here and everyone like in their investment in it. I'm so happy that more people found it. They have a high bar to beat next season, but luckily they have the momentum to do it, I think. And I'm happy to have everyone here today to talk about it.
Than't for having us.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you for scoring like
Ben Stiller.
Oh
my
God! I can't wait to brag about that one.
I am telling everyone.
I know he was just kind of just reading off of a card, but
no, he knows us, Sean. He knows us. We're friends now.
We're friends.
I'll go more into it after we're done taping here. But long story short, I was able to meet him this past weekend.
Oh my God!
So he's a very great guy. Thank you to everyone who's watching. Obviously, you probably came here through your respective fandom of who's here. And again, the real point of like these discussions is to celebrate the show and the film that we want to see. We do have a lot lined up for this year. We have plenty of returning shows and new movies coming out that we want to talk about. To list a few, we have Andor season 2, Last of Us season 2, Squid Game, Stranger Things, the new Superman movie. So a lot of things that we have on the calendar this year for Crossing the Streams, and I'm excited to have. Please, if you're watching this at home, leave some names down below of who you think you'd like to see in these future episodes. There's a lot of creators that cover all of these topics. We definitely have, no shortness of who to pick. So please leave some names who you think you like to see, creators, reactors, podcasters, anyone. And again, if you're here for one person, you like what another person said here today, please subscribe, follow each other, like build a community out. I think that's the best way this whole thing can grow. We can stay strong together, and stay Lumen strong, or whatever we're going to say.
Lumen strong.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Thank you, everyone. I will have links to everyone's social media and channels in the description below. Please follow them there, and we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.